Hello, people, and welcome to our show, The Magazine Tree. I'm Kai, and I'll be your host for tonight's talk. People, when we talk about books and short stories, I'm very sure that all of us have our favorite author, at least one for each genre. Am I right? So we have heard famous authors like Charles Dickens, George Eliot, and Scott Fitzgerald. And guess what, people? We have three special guests with us tonight. Can you give a guess who they are? No? Okay, I'll tell you because I know. If you love reading novel, I can bet with all of you this person is on your top list. This is always one of the most requested novel that our audience would like to dig in. Let's talk about it. Tonight, we bring you the author, Virginia Woolf. So welcome, Wolf. Happy to have you here tonight.
Hello, nice to meet you. Thank you, Miss Kali, for having me tonight.
Next, we have her bold words with criticism, a very solidified person with her charismatic way of criticizing people. We have Yazidi with us. Hello and glad to meet you.
Hi, Kai. Thank you for inviting me to the show.
Last but not least, our final guest. I guess this one would be one of Wolf's biggest fan, maybe. Introducing Sarah M. How are you doing today, Sarah?
Hi, Kai. I'm good. So lucky to be here with all of you.
Okay, people, enough with the icebreaking session. Let's start our show tonight. I'm sure all of you are excited as I am. Okay, so first question, Mr. Wolf. If you don't mind, would you share with us about your writing journey? Perhaps who has inspired you into becoming such an excellent author?
Well, thank you for the question, Miss Kali. Well, those who know me know that I love traveling. I've been keeping this one journal, which is called a travel journal, to record my thoughts and impressions as I travel through Greece, Turkey, and Italy. During my visit in Italy, my eyes couldn't take off from all the paintings. Influenced by the gallery visit, I began to tie the visual arts to my aims as a writer. The paintings actually triggered me to reflect on writing, capturing an early concept of the stream of consciousness technique. As for writing, I want to express beauty to it too. I attain a different kind of beauty, achieve a symmetry by means of infinite discords, showing all the traces of the mind's passage through the world. Achieve in the end some kind of whole made of shivering fragments. To me, this seems the natural process, the flight of the mind. Nevertheless, I don't really think that I am an excellent writer. Plus, what will make me want?
We heard that you are dealing with some problems with love, especially with your mental health and depression. And in fact, in Mrs. Dallaway also showed a clear part where Septimus is also having the same reactions as you. So, are you trying to tell your readers that you are struggling with depression and mental health? I'm sure others are dying to know about this.
Well, young lady, from my rating, people can say anything about me. My concern is just to share my own experiences with mental illness and only to make a point about patriarchy in Victorian society. My mental state, I don't want to elaborate it more.
But you talk about that a lot in your writing, so it's the same if you talk about it here.
Okay, people, I think we should move on to something more interesting, okay? Okay, Sierra, so you're here as a big fan of Wolf. I'm happy to have you here today. So could you tell me and the audience how much you like reading this book and what would be your opinion on having this book as your favorite book?
Yeah, right, hands down. My favorite book in the entire universe. I have a copy at home, I have a copy in my apartment, I have a copy at work. All are highlighted, underlined, and well loved. A beloved professor once told me that I will appreciate this book at 20, and I will appreciate it for entirely different reasons at 40. Well, 2 years after my first reading, I already found that different elements strike me for different reasons. I like that a book which you can grow old, a must read for everyone in the home without leave.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a good book for me too. So yeah, you as a professional critic, do you think that this book um, is good as what others said, or does the book seems to be as cliche as the others, or do you find something that managed to catch your attention in it? Let's listen to what Yazidi would say.
Well, we're aware that Wolf's works always revolve around the political side. However, I do appreciate that Mrs. Dalloway was written in a comprehensible storyline that accentuates the relationship, romance, drama, and the internal problems that you wanted to subliminally emerge in the book. But I think you involve yourself too much in Clarissa's character, Virginia, that at some point your reader might see Clarissa as Virginia Woolf, making the character lose its originality. Instead, I find Sally seems to be more likable and has a stronger character. I recall a scene when she stood up for Wingate's wife that everyone was gossiping about in the room. Clarissa laughs on the way she dresses and how she talks a lot. Although Sally exposed the truth about Wingate's wife carrying a baby before the marriage, she took the responsibility when everyone insults her. She does not hesitate when she dragged the man to filth, saying that it is their fault for the prostitution to happen in the country and how they are being such a snob. While Clarissa, on the other hand, stays silent and somehow portrays such a self-centered behavior throughout the story.
Okay. So, despite all the critics, we cannot deny that Mr. Stolway is still one of your best top-selling book compared to the other 8 books that you have written. Mind telling us what makes the book special to you, and how could it even be possible to be your best-selling book? Wolf?
Actually, from the beginning, I have made up my mind that I'm not going to be popular, and so generally that I look upon disregard or abuse as part of my bargain. I'm to have what I like, and they are to say what they like. There is no doubt in my mind that I have found out how to begin at 40 to say something in my voice, and that interests me I can, so that I feel I can go ahead without praise. To precisely explain, the characters Mrs. Torway actually had featured in The Voyage 1915. Then later, what I can remember, in 1923, a short story, Mrs. Dalloway in Bone Street, was published in the Dial. Therefore, the character Mrs. Dalloway is actually meant to be the opening chapter of the novel, professionally entitled At Home or The Party. I intended to contrast a society hostess with the prime ministers, and then gradually veered from that idea. How complicated it was for me. However, I should say that what makes the book compelling to be read because of how I dig out beautiful keeps behind my characters that give me what actually I want: humor, humanity, depth.
Okay, thank you, Wolf. So, with the great storyline presented in the book, Sierra, can you share with us some of the things that you think happened to make the story more interesting?
Yeah, sure. I enjoyed reading Crystal Away despite not a lot happening in terms of direction. As a comment on post-war society, as well as the class system of the period, the book approached a lot of interesting themes. For example, the presence of class is very prominent within this book, with Clarissa presenting the typical society hostess. Her obsession with making everything perfect for her party that evening is a central part of the book. Clarissa also wonders whether she has forgotten her old convictions, focusing instead of superficial aspects of her life. The story of Septimus and Razia was also one which incited sympathy, and I thought their plight against Septimus' undiagnosed shell shock was interesting to read about.
Okay, overall, Sarah, do you think the book Mr. Solway should end the way it is, or you as the reader, the ending should be different than the one presented in the book.
I think I love the ending that originally presented. The book ends as Clarissa is approaching Peter. We end by observing Clarissa Dalloway along with Peter. She says there she was. We see multiple images. We see misery, the variety, and the richness of a human being who is far more than a hostess.
Okay, thank you so much, Shara. And as we know, the story of Mrs. Dalloway has been used in many schools and even in university as one of the lessons for their literature class. But does it seem odd to have scenes where homosexuality is showed? Anything to add, Yazzie?
Okay, well, in my opinion, homosexuality is no stranger, as we are aware of that since decades. It depends on the individual to decide whether it is odd for them or not, but it might bring some confusion as there are so many relationships and perspectives in this book that readers need to take some time to get familiar with. Clarissa herself was associated with the relationship between Sally, Peter, and her husband Richard. And bringing Septimus along the story kind of creates a glitch for the reader to keep track of the storyline from the beginning. Nevertheless, it gets clearer towards the end. Homosexuality would open another discussion for the students to analyze how it may have influenced the characters to behave in a certain manner, for example. Does that affect Clarissa's depression? We never know. Overall, I like how the book points out the dilemma in the relationship that is still relevant and shows the realisticity. Let's jump in Rezia's world, Septimus's wife. She loves her husband, but we could see her suffering in the relationship as Septimus does not love her. She was never the priority in the relationship. The only reason Septimus marries her is to keep him accompanied at night because he cannot sleep during the night. He cannot sleep alone, as for the reason being traumatized by the war. He is even reluctant to have children with Razia. Razia, coming from another country and has no one besides her husband, was tortured mentally. I would say Razia is actually the loneliest character in the story that we should focus on as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point from you, Yazzie. And indeed, homosexuality in this era shouldn't be a main issue. So, such amazing sharing with all of our special guests. I would like to hear more, but unfortunately, we don't have plenty of time left. I hope you all had such a great sharing tonight, and thank you so much for joining us. And it is good to have all of you here with us tonight. So, with that, we have come to the end of the show. Don't forget to join us again next week for more exciting topics and discussion that you surely don't want to miss out. So, signing off and good night.